Are we alone? It's a question that's fascinated people for, well, probably as long as we've been looking up at the stars.
It really is one of those fundamental questions, isn't it? And today, we're taking a deep dive into it.
That's right. We're going to explore the history of how we've thought about extraterrestrial life, the scientific methods we're using to search for it, and some of the most tantalizing clues we've found so far.
And who knows, maybe by the end of this, we'll have some answers or at least some new ways of thinking about the question.
At least some more questions, I'm sure. But let's start with the basics.
Okay, that was good.
Have we already found evidence of alien life, but we just haven't recognized it yet? What do you think?
Well, it's certainly possible. And that's actually one of the most intriguing ideas that we'll be exploring today.
It's pretty mind-blowing to think about, right?
It is, especially when you consider how much our understanding of life in the universe has changed just in the past few decades.
Exactly. I mean, for centuries, people could only speculate about what might be out there. But now we have actual scientific data to work with.
Yeah, we're discovering new planets almost every day. And some of them are in that sweet spot, the habitable zone, where conditions might be right for life as we know it.
And maybe even for life as we don't know it.
Exactly. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's rewind the clock a bit.
Okay, let's go back in time, way back. Did people in ancient times even consider the possibility of other worlds, other life beyond Earth?
Oh, absolutely. Ancient philosophers, even early Christian writers, were already grappling with the concept of plurality of worlds.
Wow, really? So this isn't just a modern idea.
Not at all. Thinkers like Democritus and Epicurus in ancient Greece, and later Christian writers like Augustine, they were already pondering the vastness of space and the possibility that Earth might not be unique.
I love that. These ancient thinkers just looking up at the sky and wondering what else might be out there.
They didn't have telescopes or space probes, but they had their imaginations. And they weren't afraid to push the boundaries of what was considered acceptable to think about.
And sometimes those big, bold ideas, even if they seem a little crazy at the time, they can end up leading to incredible discoveries.
That's so true. And we see that throughout history as we explore the evolution of how we've thought about extraterrestrial life.
Okay, so we've got ancient philosophers pondering the possibility of other worlds. When did things start to get a bit more, well, concrete?
Let's fast forward a bit to the 15th century. Now, this is where things get really interesting.
Okay, lay it on me.
William Vorlong, a theologian, actually proposed that Jesus might have visited other worlds to redeem their inhabitants.
Wait, hold on. Jesus visiting aliens.
I know it sounds pretty wild, right?
Mm.
Especially for the 15th century. But it shows how people were already grappling with the theological implications of extraterrestrial life.
Yeah, if there are other intelligent beings out there, what does that mean for our understanding of religion?
Exactly. And it's a question that still resonates today. But it wasn't just theologians who were pushing the boundaries of what was considered acceptable to think about. Nicholas of Cusa, writing in 1440, described Earth as a brilliant star, just like all the other celestial objects we see.
Okay, so he's starting to see Earth not as the center of everything, but as just one part of a much larger system.
Exactly. He theorized that all these extraterrestrial bodies, including the sun, could potentially be inhabited. It's a remarkable vision, considering the limited scientific knowledge of the time.
So we've got this idea of a plurality of worlds gaining traction. Was everyone on board with the idea of extraterrestrial life by this point?
Not exactly. René Descartes, a prominent philosopher of that era, argued that while we can't definitively disprove the existence of intelligent beings on other planets, it remained a matter of speculation.
Okay, so a healthy dose of skepticism, always a good thing in science, right?
Absolutely. We need to be cautious about jumping to conclusions, but even Descartes couldn't completely dismiss the possibility.
Right. The seed had been planted. And over the centuries, that seed would grow into a full-blown scientific quest for extraterrestrial life.
Exactly. And it wouldn't be long before that quest took some major leaps forward.
So when did we actually start looking for alien life?
The mid-20th century is when things really took off. And it split into two main branches, the search for any kind of past or present life, and the hunt for intelligent life. That second branch, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, or SETI, that's had a huge impact on our culture.
Oh, absolutely. Science fiction has given us some incredible alien encounters on the big screen. Close Encounters, E.T., Arrival, just to name a few.
And those stories, they've done more than just entertain us. They've helped shape public perception and spark debates about the potential consequences of contact.
That's true. I mean, what would it actually be like to meet an alien civilization? Would it be friendly, hostile, something we can't even comprehend?
Those are some big questions. And science fiction has helped us explore those possibilities, even if just in our imaginations.
Yeah, but it's not all about hypothetical scenarios. Scientists are actually out there actively searching for signs of alien life, and that's where the famous Drake equation comes in, right?
You got it. The Drake equation is an attempt to estimate the number of communicative civilizations within our galaxy.
So, how many alien civilizations are out there? Does the Drake equation give us an answer?
Well, not exactly. It's based on a series of factors, many of which are highly uncertain. Things like the rate of star formation, the fraction of stars that have planets, the fraction of planets that could support life, and so on.
So it's more of a framework for thinking about the problem rather than a definitive answer?
Exactly. Even Frank Drake himself, the creator of the equation, acknowledged that these are speculative estimates. They're open to debate and revision as we learn more.
But even if it doesn't give us a precise number, the Drake equation has played a crucial role in the search for extraterrestrial life. It helped to kickstart the scientific search and focus our attention on the factors that matter most.
And that search has led to some incredible discoveries. We're finding new planets all the time, and we're developing increasingly sophisticated tools to study them.
So what are some of the methods that scientists are using to actually look for signs of life out there?
One of the key approaches is the search for biosignatures.
Okay, biosignatures. What exactly are those?
Think of them as clues that might indicate the presence of life. They can be anything from chemical compounds in a planet's atmosphere to geological features that suggest the presence of liquid water.
So, like finding oxygen in the atmosphere of a distant planet, that could be a biosignature.
Exactly. Or methane, or even more complex organic molecules. These are all potential signs that something biological might be going on.
And scientists are actually finding these biosignatures on other planets.
We are. It's still early days, and we need to be cautious about interpreting the data. But there are some really intriguing findings out there that suggest we might not be alone.
This is getting really exciting. So are there any places in particular that have scientists buzzing about the possibility of finding life?
Oh, absolutely. Our own solar system has a few hotspots that have scientists really intrigued. Mars, for example, has long captured our imaginations.
Yeah, Mars, the red planet. I remember watching those first images from the Viking landers back in the 70s. It was like looking at another world.
And in a way, it is. And what we've learned since then is that Mars wasn't always the cold, dry desert it is today.
Really? So what was Mars like in the past?
Evidence suggests that billions of years ago, Mars was a much warmer, wetter place with rivers, lakes, and possibly even oceans.
Wow. So you're saying that Mars might have been habitable at one point?
That's what the evidence seems to suggest. And that raises the tantalizing possibility that life might have emerged on Mars, even if it's long gone now.
Okay, so Mars was potentially habitable in the past. What about now? Is there any chance that life could still exist on Mars today?
Well, Mars lost most of its atmosphere and became much colder and drier over time, but some scientists believe that microbial life could still be clinging to existence somewhere beneath the surface.
So like little Martian microbes hiding out underground.
Exactly. Perhaps in underground aquifers or hydrothermal systems, places where there might still be liquid water and a source of energy.
That would be incredible if we found even microbial life on Mars.
It would be a game changer. And it's one of the main reasons why we keep sending missions to Mars, to search for those signs of past or present life.
Okay, so Mars, maybe microbes underground. Are there any other places in our solar system that have scientists excited about the possibility of life?
Definitely. Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, is another prime candidate.
Europa, isn't that the one with all the ice?
That's the one. But beneath that icy surface, scientists believe there's a vast global ocean.
Wow, a whole ocean hidden under the ice. How deep is it?
Estimates vary, but it could be tens of kilometers deep. And what's even more exciting is that this ocean might be heated by tidal forces from Jupiter.
Tidal forces, so like the moon's gravity pulling on the Earth's oceans.
Similar idea. Jupiter's gravity creates friction within Europa, generating heat. And that heat could create hydrothermal vents on the ocean floor, similar to those we find on Earth.
And on Earth, those hydrothermal vents are teeming with life, right? Even without sunlight.
Exactly. They're like little oases in the deep ocean. And some scientists believe that similar vents on Europa could provide the energy and nutrients needed for life to exist.
So we've got Mars, maybe microbes underground, Europa, maybe something swimming around in those dark depths. Are there any other contenders in our solar system's life lottery?
Well, there's one more that might surprise you. Venus.
Venus, really. But Venus is like a furnace? The surface temperature is hot enough to melt lead?
I know the surface is definitely not hospitable, but recent studies have suggested a surprising possibility microbial life could exist in the cooler, high-altitude clouds of Venus.
Wait, life in the clouds of Venus? That sounds like something straight out of science fiction. What kind of life could possibly survive in those conditions?
We're talking about extremophiles, organisms that thrive in environments that would be deadly to most life on Earth.
Okay, so like those microbes that live in boiling hot springs or acidic mine drainage?
Exactly. And in the case of Venus, we're talking about microbes that could potentially tolerate the acidic conditions and high pressures found in the Venusian atmosphere.
So instead of little green men on Mars, we might find microscopic life floating around in the clouds of Venus.
It's a possibility. And it highlights how our understanding of what's considered habitable is constantly evolving. Life might find a way to exist in places we never thought possible.
This is all so mind-blowing, but it raises a crucial point. How can we be sure we'd even recognize life that's radically different from anything we've encountered on Earth?
That's the million-dollar question. Our understanding of life is based entirely on what we've observed on our own planet.
Right. DNA, carbon-based life forms, water as the essential solvent. But what if life elsewhere has evolved in entirely different ways?
What if alien life uses different building blocks, different energy sources, even different solvents? That's where the concept of life as we don't know it comes in.
It's a pretty wild idea, isn't it, to think that life could exist in forms that we can't even begin to imagine.
It's a challenge for scientists, but it's also incredibly exciting. It forces us to rethink our assumptions about what life is and where we might find it.
And that brings us to some of the most cutting-edge research in astrobiology today. The search for life as we don't know it.
And that's exactly what we'll be diving into next. One of our sources makes this really interesting comparison between the search for exoplanets and the search for extraterrestrial life.
Oh, yeah. Like, what do they say?
Well, they basically argue that just like scientists once assumed planets existed beyond our solar system, long before we actually had the technology to detect them, we might be in a similar situation with alien life. Like, the evidence could be out there.
Yeah, that's a good point. We just might not have the tools or the right mindset yet to recognize it.
Right. We're always discovering new things about the universe, constantly refining our instruments and our understanding.
Yeah, it's totally possible we've overlooked something crucial, or maybe we're just looking in the wrong places.
Well, think about those early exoplanet discoveries. The first ones we found were these massive gas giants.
Oh, yeah, those are the easiest to spot, right? Because they cause those huge wobbles in their stars.
Exactly.
Huh.
And it took time, more advanced technology, to find those smaller rocky planets that might be more Earth-like.
So maybe we're just starting to scratch the surface when it comes to detecting life beyond Earth.
I think so. It's like we're still focused on what's familiar to us, what we can easily measure with our current instruments.
So we could be looking for the wrong things or using the wrong methods because our understanding of life is limited to what we've observed here on Earth.
Exactly. What if alien life is so different, so bizarre, that it's literally beyond our current comprehension? It's a pretty wild thought.
Yeah, it's like trying to imagine a color you've never seen before.
That's a great way to put it, and it's a challenge that astrobiologists are constantly facing.
And speaking of challenges, one of our sources actually highlights the skepticism and debate surrounding the field of astrobiology.
Oh yeah? What do they say?
Well, some critics argue that it isn't a true scientific discipline. They say it's more speculative than rigorous because we haven't found definitive proof of extraterrestrial life yet.
I can see where they're coming from. It does require a certain level of, I guess you could say, faith to devote your career to searching for something that you might never find.
Right, but even without that definitive proof, astrobiologists are making significant progress in understanding the conditions that are necessary for life and the potential for life to exist beyond Earth.
Oh, absolutely. They're exploring some fascinating areas, like extremophiles.
Yeah, those organisms that thrive in those super hot hydrothermal vents or in the freezing depths of the ocean. Those are pretty incredible. They really push the boundaries of what we thought was possible for life to exist.
Exactly. And by studying those extremophiles, scientists are gaining insights into the incredible adaptability of life and expanding the range of environments where we might find it, broadening our perspective on what's considered habitable.
So if life can survive in those extreme conditions here on Earth, it could potentially exist in even more extreme environments on other planets or moons, right?
Precisely. And it opens up the possibility of detecting life through unusual signals, which reminds me, one of our sources mentions the famous wow signal.
Oh, yeah. I remember reading about that. Wasn't that a strange radio signal detected back in the 70s that some people thought could be a message from an alien civilization?
That's the one. It was back in 1977, a radio telescope picked up this strong narrowband signal from space, and it lasted for 72 seconds.
So what happened? Did they ever figure out what caused it?
Well, despite repeated attempts, the signal was never detected again, leaving its source a complete mystery. Was it a glitch? A natural phenomenon we don't understand yet? Or was it a fleeting message from an alien civilization? We may never know for sure.
It's kind of unsettling to think that we might have already brushed up against evidence of alien life and just missed it, you know?
It's a good reminder that we need to keep an open mind and be prepared for the unexpected in our search for extraterrestrial life.
So, the wow signal, a potential hint, but still a mystery. Are there any other observations out there that have scientists scratching their heads?
Well, there's KIC 8462852, you might have heard of it, also known as Tabby's star.
Oh, yeah, Tabby's star. I remember reading about that. That's the one that has those weird, unpredictable dips in brightness, right?
That's it. Astronomers have proposed a bunch of different explanations for its strange behavior.
Like what?
Swarms of comets, dust clouds. But honestly, none of them fully explain the observations.
And I think I remember reading that some people even suggested that it could be a sign of an alien megastructure, right?
Yeah, some have proposed that, the idea of some kind of megastructure built by an advanced alien civilization to harness the star's energy. But that's considered a very unlikely scenario.
I mean, it would be pretty amazing if it were true, though.
It would be groundbreaking.
Yeah.
And it highlights how our thinking has evolved. We're starting to consider possibilities that might have seemed outlandish just a few decades ago.
Okay, so we've got these potential hints, the wow signal, Tabby's star. But what about more concrete evidence? Has there ever been a discovery that's come close to proving the existence of alien life?
Well, one event that generated a lot of excitement and controversy was the analysis of the Martian meteorite, AL-884,001.
ALH-84001. Refresh my memory.
It's the one that came from Mars and landed in Antarctica.
Oh, right. I remember reading about that. Scientists thought they found fossilized bacteria inside it, right?
Yes. Back in 1996, a team of scientists announced they'd found what looked like fossilized bacteria within the meteorite. It was huge news.
Yeah, I remember it was all over the news. But what happened? Did other scientists disprove the findings?
The debate over ALH-84001 continues to this day, but most scientists now agree that the evidence is inconclusive.
So another case of tantalizing hints, but no smoking gun.
Pretty much. It seems like we're still searching for that definitive proof that we're not alone.
And in the meantime, scientists are developing new ways to search for that proof, right? Even if that life is completely unlike anything we've ever seen before.
Exactly. We'll dive into those new approaches in the next part of our deep dive. So we've covered some pretty fascinating ground in our search for an answer to that age-old question. Are we alone?
We really have. From ancient philosophers imagining a plurality of worlds to modern scientists searching for biosignatures.
And let's not forget about that mind-bending concept of life as we don't know it.
Oh, yeah, that one really stretches the imagination.
It does, doesn't it? But it's a crucial part of this search, forcing us to challenge our assumptions about what life is and where we might find it.
And I think one of the biggest takeaways for me has been the realization that we still have so much to learn.
Absolutely. For centuries, we assumed Earth was unique, the only planet capable of supporting life, and now we know that our galaxy alone likely contains billions of planets.
Billions. It's incredible to think about, and many of those planets could potentially harbor life.
It really is mind-boggling. The discovery of exoplanets has completely shifted our perspective.
It really has. It's no longer a question of if there are other planets out there, but rather how many of them might be suitable for life as we know it.
Or even life as we don't know it.
Exactly. And that's what makes this search so exciting.
It really is. We're not just looking for another Earth, another planet that looks just like ours.
We're exploring a vast universe of possibilities, acknowledging that life could take on forms that we can't even begin to imagine.
And you know what else has really struck me during our deep dive? Life might be far more adaptable and resilient than we ever thought possible.
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, just look at the extremophiles we find here on Earth, thriving in those incredibly harsh environments.
Exactly. Boiling hot springs, freezing cold depths of the ocean, acidic mine drainage. Life finds a way.
It makes you wonder what might be possible on other planets and moons.
It really does. It highlights how important it is to be open to new possibilities, to challenge our assumptions about what life requires.
And that's where life as we don't know it comes in.
Exactly. Thinking about life that might be based on completely different biochemistry, using different building blocks, different solvents, different ways of harnessing energy.
It's a challenge for scientists because it means we can't just rely on the biosignatures we're familiar with from Earth.
We need new ways of detecting life, even if it's completely alien to us.
So instead of looking for familiar signs of life, like oxygen or methane, we need to focus on those fundamental properties that define life itself, regardless of its chemistry.
That's exactly right. Things like complexity, organization, the ability to maintain a state far from equilibrium.
It's like learning to read a language we've never encountered before. We might not understand the individual words, but we can still recognize patterns.
That's a fantastic analogy. And that's what groups like ELAB are doing, developing those tools, those frameworks that will allow us to recognize life even if it's radically different from anything we've ever seen.
It feels like we're on the cusp of a new era of exploration, one that's not just about finding another Earth, but about expanding our definition of life itself.
And embracing the incredible diversity that might exist out there. It's an exciting time to be in this field.
It really is. But as we push the boundaries of our understanding, we're forced to confront that fundamental question once again. Have we already found evidence of alien life?
It's the question that's been driving this search for generations. A question that has fueled countless debates, inspired scientific missions, and captivated the public imagination.
You know, after all the research we've done for this deep dive, I can't help but wonder if the evidence might already be out there.
Hidden in plain sight.
Yeah, just waiting for us to develop the right tools and the right perspective to recognize it.
I mean, think about those tantalizing hints we've discussed, the wow signal, the strange behavior of Tabby's star.
Even the controversial analysis of that Martian meteorite, ALH 84001.
What if those weren't false alarms, but rather glimpses of something we didn't fully understand at the time?
It really makes you think, doesn't it? The answer to this age-old question might not come from some grand singular discovery,
But rather from a gradual accumulation of evidence.
a shift in perspective, a willingness to embrace the unknown.
And you know what? Here's a final thought to leave you with. Imagine for a moment that we do find conclusive evidence of alien life.
Okay, I'm imagining it.
Not in some distant galaxy, but right here in our own solar system.
Wow, okay. In our own solar system.
Maybe on Mars or Europa, or even in those enigmatic clouds of Venus. How would such a discovery change us?
That's a huge question to think about. It would completely change our perspective on everything.
It would force us to confront our place in the cosmos in a way we never have before.
It would challenge our beliefs, our understanding of science, our very sense of identity.
It would be a defining moment for humanity.
It's both exciting and a little bit terrifying to think about.
It is. But as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm left with a sense of wonder and a renewed appreciation for the sheer vastness and mystery of the universe.
Me too. Who knows what incredible discoveries await us out there?
And maybe, just maybe, the answer to the question, are we alone, is closer than we think.
Well, I guess the search continues. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the search for extraterrestrial life. It's been an incredible journey.
It really has. And for all of you listening out there, keep looking up at the stars and keep asking those big questions. Who knows what we might find?
Are we alone?